This episode of the Long Run Podcast is sponsored by Skechers.
Hello, everybody. It's 7 o'clock-ish on Friday. And welcome to the Long Run live stream and podcast brought to you by the FORDY Runs Running community and our generous sponsors at Skechers. Tonight, we're talking about marathon pacing and general mental approaches to marathons because London is just 9 days away. So you've come to the right place if you want to chat about mental preparation for the big day. Chris is here, Toby's here. Joining us as well, we have Petra Warner, FORDY stalwart, and someone who's done their fair share of pacing shifts and virtually everything else that you could possibly do regarding running. She's done it, so she's a great expert. And last but not least, it is a massive, big welcome back to Alan.
Hi,
after his
everyone.
break. Good to see you, mate.
Good to be back.
Lovely.
I'm a little bit nervous. I've forgotten all the questions.
We nervous, mate. You were my friends.
And I don't know where I wrote them. I've written them down somewhere and they're gone. So
I'm
going to have to go back and watch a previous episode and see if I can work it all out for future reference.
That's a good point.
Okay, mate. We'll bank on that because, you know, that is a vital component of any long run podcast live stream to remember. So it's great to have you back, mate. And but before we plough on to our main subject for the evening, been a quiet couple of weeks, hasn't it, Chris?
Yeah, it's been interesting. I blame solely 100% my deferring from London and not feeling very well for the last 8 days purely on Toby. It's his fault. He got COVID, gave it to me, and it's 100% his fault. It can't be anybody else's, right? It's 100% Toby's. If you don't agree, send an email into whogavemecovid@gmail.com. But Toby gave me it, and because of Toby, I'm now not doing London. How do you feel about that, Toby?
You're very welcome.
But
I've done you a favour, haven't I? Because Russell was only going to kill you.
Yeah, Russell, to be fair, right, Russell was going to kill me. I was going to say, if you don't know what we're talking about, right, so Russell, who's now living in Wales, Russell, big shout out, Russ. I was going to be running London with Russ. And then Russ, I think actually what gave me COVID was the fear. Because Russell did a 20-mile run the other day, all under goal pace. Like literally just shredded it. And I didn't know this, but my friends sent me it and said, here, FORDY, look what's going to happen to you on the day. So I then pooed myself and started panicking. So lucky for me, I got COVID. No.
So let's just go over the sort of what's happened over the last week and a bit. Now, myself, you, Toby, and various others, we went to Newcastle, did Great North Run, and came back with more than just a T-shirt and a medal.
Yes,
there was a bit of an
outbreak.
outbreak.
My T-shirt though. I'm pointing this out. Sign it, my T-shirt.
Oh yeah. So Toby, right? Sorry, Wilco. Just again, another important fact to tell the viewers because you've got to look out on Instagram for when this comes out. So Toby believes he's a medium T-shirt. There's absolutely no way he's a medium T-shirt, right? He got one. No, you're not. He got one, right? We're sitting in Nando's and Simon's in this like skin tight T-shirt. And I looked at him and said, bruv, if that's a large, there's no way Tobe's getting in the medium. He went, oh, tight. He looked, and it was the medium. So, it was literally like painted on him. There's no, and Tobe is not like bigger as in, but he's a bigger frame than Sight. There's absolutely no way. So, again, viewers, please email in and try and convince Tobe because he keeps getting medium T-shirts and they don't fit him.
I'll wear them.
They don't.
You're missing the important aspect here. You're missing a very important point. What happened in Nando's towards the end?
I can't remember. But the point is,
somebody decided to ask for the bill.
on Instagram, we're going to put a picture out of Toby in his Great North Run top medium, and you will see exactly what I mean. We're going to do it this weekend because they're coming and we're running. So we're going to see this medium T-shirt on Toby because it does not fit you, Toby.
It does.
You see, they still convinced. Sorry, carry on, Wilco.
So you've, we've all, the three of us have had COVID I've had it for the first time. So we've had it for the last few days. And Chris, in all seriousness, you've had to come to quite a big decision about what you're doing in the next few weeks.
Yeah, on a serious note for like 3 seconds, and then we'll get into the rest of the show. I'm still not 100%. I reckon I'm about 75%. Still quite chesty. We know COVID is respiratory. It attacks the respiratory system. I've got Amsterdam lined up, and I took a decision. Firstly, there was no way I was going to be able to do it, but it was. I suppose I could have walked around, but for me, I'm lucky enough to have done London a few times. I don't need to go around there. This will be my last London marathon unless for some miracle I get in the ballot, which ain't going to happen, right? So I wanted to go out on a high and do it service and do it a good service, right? So I looked at it and I thought, you know what? It is what it is. Let's try and do Amsterdam. Let's try and concentrate on that, but take obviously also away from that run the pressure of running a time. So I've taken that away from me, and I'm already focused on next year's A race, and I'm focusing on that. So for me now, it's just to get some miles through the legs, see how I feel. I've got Royal Parks before Amsterdam, but just concentrate on getting around Amsterdam in one piece and seeing how I am. I'm touching wood. I'm feeling a lot better. I've done 2 runs since testing negative. I've not done anything mental. Did 6 miles yesterday, just at a nice, easy pace. Actually, it was a bit harder than it should have been because I was with Simon. And I felt okay, so touch wood. So I'm going to do tomorrow. I've got a plan for tomorrow. I've got 3 runs I can do. I can run to Park Run and stop if I feel knackered, which is about 9 miles. I can then carry on and do Park Run if I feel all right. And if I feel all right after, I can run back. But at any point, I can stop. So I'm just trying to see how I feel. I know, and thanks to everybody who's messaged me and said, get well, hope you feel better, blah, 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 on that video I put out today. I appreciate that. It's really nice, all the comments I've got on now. But I'm just going to take it slowly. I think everybody's different with COVID. I mean, Al, you can talk about it in a minute because you came back from COVID and did Copenhagen. I think it just depends how you are and how it attacks you. So I'm just going to see how it goes over the next week or so in terms of how I go and what I do. So I think that's where I'm at. Al, because you did Copenhagen, right? After COVID.
Yeah. So back in May, Copenhagen was on the 15th of May. I thought I was doing a good thing going off to Spain, having a little warm weather training, and I came back on the plane full of a cold. It wasn't a cold, it was COVID, and it shakes you because you hear all the horror stories about how it can be debilitating. I think I was lucky in the sense of I had a heavy cold for best part of a week, but I think I still suffer for a little bit. So some of those hard runs are harder than they are even now. But yeah, it was probably naivety and stupidity. We're going, well, I'm signed up, I'm going to do it. I didn't quite get the time I wanted for, but when you think about what could have happened, as I said, I was lucky enough that I managed to get out there and do it because I wasn't bedridden. I wasn't suffering other than just feeling a bit shit, pardon my language, because of a heavy cold. So it can be done, but it's probably not advisable. And I don't know if I have done any long-term damage.
So how long was it between your negative test and doing Copenhagen? How long did you have sort of like from when you'd actually recovered?
So tested negative, I think, on the Friday and went out the following Thursday. So it was less than a week. So
wow,
right.
But as I said, I wasn't laid up. Didn't have to take any time off work. It was just dose up as if you had a heavy cold. Managed to get out running pretty much straight away. It felt hard, but for me, I think the adrenaline of doing the marathon and having that foreign trip probably kicked in till about mile 22. Then the legs went. No lie, absolutely went at mile 22. But as you said, Chris, everyone's got take it based on knowing themselves and knowing where they're at.
I've got a little bit further in the book because my marathon's in Dublin at the end of the month, so I think I've got about 4 or 5 weeks to go.
Yeah,
so
plenty of time.
Yeah, but so what I'm contemplating is to sort of like do what I can really for about the next sort of 7 or 8 days, perhaps not go out consecutive days and things like that. I've had a couple of, I tested negative on Wednesday. I've been out I've done a 3-mile run and a 5-mile run today. Don't feel too bad. And I'm just going to do what I can, I think, for the next sort of 7 or 8 days and then have a reevaluation of where I'm at and how I can get sufficient mileage in my legs that I'll be confident that I can complete and I can do all right. So,
yeah. Tobe, since you've had COVID, what have you done apart from eat?
So I definitely didn't get the COVID thing of not being very hungry.
No, me neither.
So I did a bit of eating, unusually. I haven't done much really. I've been quite busy at work and stuff as well. So it's quite an active job, remember.
We're not playing this card again, mate.
It's not an active job.
It
You
is.
sit down all day.
No, I don't. A bit of eating, a bit of walking, typing. Yeah. Anyway, so obviously that's your. I've only been out. Tuesday night. I came up, did a few laps, took it easy, did a couple of hard little bits, but definitely couldn't have kept that going for too long. So yeah, but we'll see. We'll find out tomorrow really where I'm at.
Oh yeah, that's true. What about you, Petra? Have you skipped this? Have you managed to swerve it?
Yeah, I've not had it.
I'll tell everyone, touch wood. Everyone, if you're listening to this on the podcast, stop. Touch some wood for Petra. Everyone's touching wood.
So yeah, no, I've been fortunate so far. Thankfully.
Fingers crossed, Petra. Don't go to the Great North Run ever. You'll get it. Especially if you go with Toby, who's the super spreader.
Although to be fair, we did do Great North Run, come back with COVID, and then decided to sign up for a membership. Yeah,
there is that. I suppose. So what we've established is that we're stupid. Good. Yeah, that we're stupid, basically. Oh, talking of signing up for stuff, let us know. Email. What's the email, Wilco? Oh, we've got to do some
longrunShow@gmail.com.
Right, before we go, so and then I'll come on to the shout outs. Let us know. Email in what you've been signing up for, because everybody, I don't know about you, but loads of people have been signing up for stuff, because all the stuff like for next year, we've got the ballots coming, we've got London opening up, Berlin. Big shout out to everybody doing Berlin. Our own co-host Hayden's out there at the moment, rocking it out with his missus. So everybody's doing Berlin. Good luck. And I say anybody who's, let us know, come in and tell us what you've been signing up for, because Tobe signed up for Berlin, Manchester, and that ultra he's doing next year. What ultra is that, Tobe? You're doing that 100?
I don't remember signing up for it, but there is a really important ballot opening up in the next few weeks.
What's that?
Ride London.
Yeah, no interest.
So I've got set the reminder down for you. So we all enter.
You can enter me. I ain't doing no training. I'm doing zero training. You can jog on. Anybody?
It's like running a marathon, really, isn't it?
What?
It's like running a marathon.
Yeah.
Do a long taper. You'll be fine.
Be all right. Anyway,
I mean, it's a lot of, it's hard enough training for one event, isn't it? Rather than training to ride a bike for a long bike ride.
I ain't training to ride a bike. I don't ride bikes. I'm not riding it. I'm not doing any training. If I've got to do 100 miles, I'm going to get Boris bike and I'm going to do it. They can jog on. I ain't doing any training for it. I'll take 10 hours or whatever it takes. I'm doing no training. I refuse to get on a bike. Anyway, we've got to do the shout outs, boys and girls. Firstly, big shout out, Admin. It was her birthday the other day.
Yeah, bless her.
Big shout out, Admin. She's largely in Abu Dhabi at the moment. She won't be listening to this. She'll be upside down with a bottle of, Pinot Grigio. Woo! And then, second shout out, if you want National Running Show tickets, stick the code in FORDY Run. Bosh, get some of that. We're going to be there live, adding as much value as we can to you, the wonderful audience. All 25,000 of you coming to see us. We're going to be there. What was the other thing? Start Fitness. 10% off that. They're not sponsoring this. This is just a gift to you because we keep on giving back to our listeners. What was the other one, Wilco? Skechers. Obviously, you gave a shout out at the front end. We love Skechers. People, get on board of the Skechers revolution that we're doing in this country, right? What was the other thing, Wilco? Any more plugs we got to do?
Well, not particularly a plug. I just want, while we're giving shout outs, I wanted to just read an email that we received last week before we did the pre-record show because you were going to go up Ben Nevis and then you never went because you've got the
Yeah,
Rona.
don't talk to me about it. I've got the hump about it.
Anyway, it will still be there, mate. Don't worry. You can
Yeah,
do it
but
another time.
we've got an amazing list of challenges that we can talk about in another
Anyway,
episode. Go on,
this
carry on.
is we got an email from Rosie Nash. Hi, Long Run Show. I have just started listening to your show after my mum Maggie recommended it to me. She wouldn't stop going on about it. Cheers, Maggie. We love you.
Love you, Maggie.
She is 69 years old.
Legend.
And she only started running during lockdown. She ran her first marathon in London last year and will be doing her second in London in a couple of weeks with me. I am so massively proud of her and what she has achieved, and it would be fantastic if you could wish her huge luck with the marathon on your show. Thank you and keep up the good work. We love it.
Good luck and well done.
So that is
And
Rosie and Maggie Nash. Thank you very much. Absolutely. What an inspiration. 69 years young, and she's out there doing it, smashing 26.2 miles around the city of London.
That's it. When I'm 69, well, I don't think I think Mrs. Ford would have put me in that big hole she's dug in the garden by then. I'll be honest with you. I think I'm getting, it's a fine line. It is a fine line. Right, anyway, so what are we talking about today? Oh, Al, have we got anything early doors coming in before we get on to what we're meant to be talking about, which I haven't got a clue really?
Yeah, we've had a few people committing to races. A couple of shout outs for Manchester, including Andrew Valente. Mark Lanthorn's not been put off. He's signed up for the GNR, despite all the COVIDness. And Vince is heading off to Paris. That's one on my bucket list to do as well.
When is that, Al?
I think Paris is spring. It's normally just before, I think, London Marathon when it's in the spring. But don't quote me on that.
Clashes around landmarks, I think.
I've been away for 2 months. I don't know what's going on.
Hasn't he got a really pony medal, though?
It's minimalist, if you like minimalist.
Minimalist means pony.
No, it's not wooden. It's gone up kind of a few leagues because it's not.
Yeah,
wooden.
your grades for poniness and medals, it's a different ballpark now that they've started making them out of trees.
Yeah, that is true. There is. Well, there's a lot of talk, isn't there, about people fretting about the fact that London Marathon medal is going to be wooden. I can't see that. I can't. I'll tell you what. Let us know. Email in at londonmarathonevents@gmail.com. If you get a wooden London Marathon medal, are you going to use it on bonfire night? Let us know. Send an email in.
My view on this, having never done the London Marathon and yet to have the opportunity to do it, if they made me a London Marathon out of milk bottle tops, I wouldn't care.
Really?
Because I'd have done it. And I wouldn't be bothered.
Fair play. No, fair play. So you're quite happy with a wooden medal is what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't mind.
Interesting thought.
And like you say, energy prices going up, could come in handy.
I like you saying, actually, yeah. What we could do is we could do races to get wooden medals because then we could put them on the fire, save heating. We're adding value wherever we go. This is what this is why we're so popular in Mongolia because maybe they do all those events, get them wooden medals, and they put them on a campfire when they're cooking the goat's milk. Do you see what I mean?
So you don't need money supermarket, man, do you? For your
I'm like that geezer. What's that geezer who keeps going on the TV and tells you about your energy bills? Martin Lewis.
That's him.
I'm like Martin Lewis in the Tottenham shirt. I wore this for Al tonight. Al, just wore this for you tonight, just to remind you about the league table while we're on the.
Yeah, I think we're top actually, aren't we?
Oh, you're tempting fate, mate.
Anyway, right, let's come on. Let's talk about some running. That's what we've got petrol on for.
Any other question? Have we had any other questions or anything?
No, let's get on to the topic. Everyone's itching to hear about race pacing and marathons, I think.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, Chris, you came up with this suggestion for doing this topic, didn't you? And one of these, I've had this brilliant idea for a topic. So I'd allow you to introduce it.
Yeah, so what it is, it came out of the... I've had a couple of people, well, more than a couple of people, fretting and worrying about race pace, marathon pace on the day. How fast should I be running? Yeah, I've been training at X. What should I be running on the day? Is this too fast? Is this too slow? Everybody's getting it. Mate, it's probably paranoia. Okay, so put that one. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go on the FORDY Runs YouTube channel and look up the 7 signs of paranoia. I guarantee you've got it. Right, it's a great video. But people are worrying about their paces for the day. So we thought, based on that, let's discuss it and dive in there today and talk about. So let's say, as an example, now the great thing about podcasts is evergreen content. So you could be listening to this because you're doing the Paris Marathon, right? So this is all relevant. What should your race pace be relative to what your easy runs? is the first question I get asked. So chap the other day, I've been running. I should have had it written down somewhere, but he was like, I'll be running at about 6:20 per kilometre. What should my race pace be? For example, my speed is, my sort of lactate threshold is like 5-minute kilometres, just under that. Where should I be? So we had a discussion, and we settled on about 5:35 to 5:40 per kilometre. So that's that, just under that 2-hour mark, just to see, based on, there's some other factors in there. But it was trying to work out what that race pace should be. I wouldn't necessarily say, now Al might disagree, because but there isn't, I would say, a real rule of thumb. I know, Al, there is people that say, this, and you come on to that and give that information. But for me, I think there's a lot more involved in it, and it should be calculated amongst a number of factors. So, yes, your easy pace, but how hard was that? So it's a bit of perceived effort. You could chuck in a bit of heart rate in there. So what were your zonage when you was running those paces? Because you could say, oh yeah, I was running easy, but then you dive into that information and actually you was in zone 3 or 4. So it should be calculated over a multitude of factors is my thought process. But if I was cutting it really down, I would go between your sort of lactate threshold pace-ish, your long run pace, and I would kind of sit somewhere in the middle, more towards that longer run pace, as a straight out point to start from, is where I would go for that marathon pace. Now, Al, I'm guessing, because I think you said this before, there are some rules that people use, right?
So there's a number of things. If you are absolutely driven by the data, you can go onto the internet and the web and stuff, and there'll be little apps, and you put in your 5K race time or your half marathon time, and they'll give you all the different kind of, from easy all the way up to tempo and everything in between. And I think you're right, Chris, that on any given day, there's a lot of factors that can influence that, like weather condition, sleep, heart rate variability. So I'd only ever treat it as a range. So that's what I do now, is kind of, if I've been set the task of going tempo, I will give myself a little leeway in terms of, making sure there's a bandwidth, so that depending on how I'm feeling and where I'm at physically, mentally, or whatever, I'm not creating anxiety because I'm a couple of seconds out. For me, having done, pretty much now done the marathon training into taper, target pace, and I'm talking in minute per miles, unfortunately, 9:09 is that magical sub 4. My easy paces have been 10:20, 10:30, and even slower at times. And the slower ones I've not bothered about, because that's probably been on a heavy weekend where you've done 8 miles on Friday, 10 on Saturday, 16 on Sunday. Of course, I'm not going to be running at 9:09 for those 16, but I do know that run is for a different purpose. It's not, those long easy runs are not there to try and simulate race pace. That's not what their purpose is for. So it's about understanding what the purpose of any given run is as well.
I think it's
you can overcomplicate it, definitely.
What Al's touched upon here, and I think this is probably the way, I don't know if Petra feels like this as well, that you work backwards, in that you see what your target time is, and then you see what how that breaks down into minutes per mile or minutes per kilometre, and then you then say, right, that's the marathon pace that I want to run at. And then consequently, you adjust your long runs and your tempo. You do all the other maths around that. Even though you're doing 60 or 70%, 80% of your runs at your long run. So say you're going for 4 hours and you're doing 9:09, you use Al's example, you'll be doing 80% of your runs between 10:30, 10:50 or something like that in your long runs. But then the main figure is the one. So you know what your marathon pace is before you start, because you've got a time in mind.
Yeah, I think, Petra, what's your take on this? Because obviously, just a bit of background, Petra's done some pacing work as well, right? So she's like a machine when it comes to nailing it. Yeah, yes, you are. Go on.
I very much run to feel those, because I think, for me personally, if I start thinking I've got to run at a certain time, this, 10-minute miles, that pressure can just be too much for me when I'm training. So I tend to run to feel, and just, I know what my easy pace is. I know how I should feel when I'm doing it and how it should feel. And I just do it that way, really, for me personally.
Yeah. And that is the thing. That's why I made the point of there's a multitude of different aspects, because every runner's different. So, like, as you said, Petra, if you was coming to me and I'd say, right, what is it? And you're going, well, I'm running to feel. We can look at the data to a degree, but ultimately it's driven by how you're feeling. So that's why I say you can use the different things. That's why there's no, like Al said, you can punch it all into the internet. You can look at your Garmin, which, by the way, says I'm as quick as Kipchoge. And, some of it is actually unrealistic. I think what's important here, though, to talk about maybe, and there's probably no right or wrong answer, but is those people who aren't necessarily going for a time, what pace do they run at? Yeah, because that's the thing. It's their first, let's say it's their first London Marathon on. When's London Marathon? I've still got a bit of COVID.
It's a week on Sunday.
I've still got COVID brain, right? Yes, to make you laugh. Totally irrelevant. Yesterday, I called Pete Keith all day. How weird's that? Even my missus went, who's Keith? I went, it's Keith. You went, Pete? I went, yeah. And I was still calling him Keith at the end of the day. Anyway, irrelevant. So, but let's say you're doing London on Sunday, but you've got no aspirations of running sub 5, sub 4, or, sub 2 like Petra would. So what is your race pace for that day? Where do you set yourself out? Now, firstly, I think you do what Petra says and you run to feel. And then you kind of track that in the first 3 or 4 miles and see how you're getting on your watch. So this feels okay. This effort out of 10 is about a 6 or a 7. I'm all right here. Reference that and go try and hold that for the rest of the race. And look at it from that point of view. You can, if you don't necessarily look at effort, you can then go, right, well, my long run data tells me that I was running most of that stuff. That I wouldn't necessarily look at the 20 miler, because I think that's a slight outliner, because that's bleeding hard to go and do that. And chances are you would have been a little bit slower on that. But let's say, what's your average pace over those, 4 or 5 longer runs you did? What was your pace there? Look at that pace, take a little bit off of it, and go with that as your overall marathon pace for the day. So there's a couple of things. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, I ain't got a clue what I'm meant to do on Sunday apart from walk around a bit and cry at the end, that's something to think about in terms of pacing, because it can blow your mind out. Honestly, I've had so many messages on Instagram. Thanks to everybody who does follow me on Instagram, message me and stuff, or emails coming in and that lot. It is, it can throw you out because you've got no idea what you're meant to do, because you're always fearful because you hear people like me saying, don't go off too fast. When you're thinking, well, what's too fast? Go back to Petra's point, run to feel. We all know what's quick. We all know what's starting to, you're starting to get a little bit out of breath. You couldn't necessarily, run along and chat to me and things like that. You want to be able to be in control of that pace and at the front end. So if you don't know how to run to feel, which not everyone does, because that tends to come with experience, then I would say look at the last 5 or 6 long runs, have a look at that pace, take a little bit off of it, and start off there and see how you feel. I mean, Al, would you agree?
In terms of running to feel, yeah, just a little trick I've picked up along the way is it's virtually impossible for me to go out and run naked, i.e. without my watch, because it's that comfort zone. But actually, I take my band down and I wrap it around my wrist so I can't actually see my watch. So I can hear it ping. So I know when I've done a kilometre, I know when I've done a mile. And that's where you can start to dial into your body in terms of how do I feel. So you have the data, so you can go back and check how did I feel versus what the data said in terms of speed, pace or whatever. And then that allows you to kind of calibrate what that feels like, if that makes sense, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. It is. It's a hard thing running to feel if you don't know. Like Petra, you've been on the rodeo a few times, so you know when your perceived effort is like hard, don't you? But at the same time, you know when you're in that zone where you're not so easy, but you are pushing a little bit, don't you? You get to know, don't you?
You do get to know, and then I think I've personally got a book where I write down after every run I've done. And I guess that when you start to look at that over time, it just becomes consistent because you kind of just go with it, don't you? You know, those longer runs are that pace, and it does become quite consistent, I think. But I think it's just trial and error, isn't it? And it's the other thing you've got is the taper. You're going to be in a completely different place.
Oh, I know.
You know, on the day compared to where you were when you were training and doing all those miles. So that's a whole different feeling as well.
It's a really good point. And that's why I say kind of if you are doing what I'm saying to do, look back over those runs, throw that 20 mile away, because that's at the end of your marathon training block-ish, apart from your taper. That's probably your highest long run you're going to do. You can kind of not throw it away entirely, but it's gonna be in a bit of an outliner in terms of your pace. I would look at that sort of, the 3 or 4 weeks before that and see what the pace is, and then think back, right, how hard was that if you didn't write it down like Petra did? And see how you feel in relation to that, because that gives you a gauge. Again, we're talking about maybe this is your first rodeo on Sunday, then you can take that information and take that knowledge and go, right, okay, I'm going to start here and I'm going to see how I feel.
And surely if you're doing your first marathon, it's almost particularly with an event on the scale of the London Marathon, surely you're going to go off too quick.
No. If you're a good boy or a good girl and you've listened to this podcast, every episode, which you can get on your favorite podcast provider, then you would listen back and you would hear me banging on about making sure you don't cock it up in the first 3 miles. Because if you do, you're going to feel it big time later. Now, there is also the flip side to that of going actually too slow in the first 3 miles. Because if you're going for it, and then this really applies to the guys who are going for a time, I would say. If you're a little bit slack at the first 3 miles, you can actually start off negative because you've got to try and make up some pace somewhere. So your effort level increases. You're much better off starting well within where you need to be. So there is actually the other side of it of being a little bit too slow. But trying to stay on topic of people who are doing their first, then yes, Wilco. But I'm hoping those guys, after listening to this, get a strategy for those first 3 miles.
If we take the opposite approach to that as well, when you've touched upon people starting too slow, and we've all, we've done these, particularly these big London races, when there's loads, whether it's not necessarily the marathon, sometimes, if you're doing landmarks or big calf or something like that, they can get very congested at the start and it takes you a while to get into to get going. And like, before you know it, you're aiming for your 9:09 first mile and you've done 9:50 or something. Because it's so
I'm going to throw a curveball.
It's so congested. Now, should you compensate? Should you allow for that?
No, I'm going to throw you an even worse curveball. Right, and this is gonna freak everybody out. So I apologise for this. This is Toby's fault. This is Toby's fault, right? Email in. What's the email, Wilco?
longrunshow@gmail.com.
Okay, right. So just a complaint about Toby, because this is his fault, right? But when you start off in London, or let's say it's the Beijing marathon or the Tokyo marathon, which you can now get your Japanese and Chinese 40 runs tops on the store. Good there, be fair. But the chances are your GPS is going to be proper screwed, and you are going to be in a dead zone, because everybody, if you look on their wrist, has got a watch on. So the chances are the GPS is going to be absolutely up the Swanee. So going out and relying on your watch might not necessarily be the best thing to do. Tobe and I did it at Landmarks, Tobe, didn't we? We had to run to fill the whole thing because we didn't have a clue what we were doing. And it's that thing. Just have that in your mind, right? When you come out of the gates, you're absolutely right, Wilco. It's going to be crowded, congested, and you're going to have to find a rhythm. But your GPS is going to be screwed. So this is where, go back to what we're talking about running to fill. I know Al's got a point. Al, what do you got?
Yeah,
you got a tip on there?
We've talked about kind of that congestion, and certainly in London, those first 3 miles probably will slow you down because of just the volume of people. And I think this depends in terms of whether you're in a race that has a rolling start as opposed to a race that has a fixed wave. But I think human nature says, I need to get out of the way. I'm going to go to the front of the wave and try and kind of kick on. But you'll always have someone who thinks that and runs faster than you. You just get sucked and dragged, and suddenly you're running too fast. One of the tactics I've learned is to sit back in the wave, wait until everyone else has gone, until the marshals are virtually kicking you out, saying, look, we're about to start the next wave. Suddenly, you've got open space. And if you are trying to chase the pacer, you might have a little bit of extra work to do, but actually you'll find you'll be able to fit into your pace because you've got open space. You've got the roadway that you haven't got if you're jostling and fighting for that few inches that everyone else thinks they need to kind of get going. So instinctively, you want to get to the front. No, get to the back. Hold back as long as you can. It will give you that opportunity to run to your pace.
That's a good point. Really good tip. Really, really good tip. Have we had any? I've seen loads of stuff firing in on the comments thing.
I think this is a good one from Martin McGrath. So on the subject of pacers, he says running with a pacer is the only way.
Well, Petra, fill us in.
I've obviously done pacing, and I loved it. It was an amazing experience, and it was lovely to be involved in. I've also run near pacers, and it was just the worst thing ever. So you wouldn't get me personally. You wouldn't get me with a pacer. I think also the thing is there's this feeling that the pacer's going to be bang on every mile and get in perfectly, but they're human. They're going to, you just don't know on the day. You might turn up to pace and you have a bad day. So you have to have faith in yourself, I think, that you can get the time you want and not rely on that pacer.
And
I think you can use a pacer without being in their back pocket. And we had a situation like this when we did the Great North Run the other week. I went with two lads who had limited sort of half experience. One had never done one before and was petrified about going off too mad and not getting the trip. So I said, right, we'll just go, we'll do 10-minute miles. And we did it all together. And we got to about 10 and there was a 2-hour 10 pacer just in front, sort of like 50 yards in front of us. And I just said, we'll just keep an eye on them. Don't let them get too far. We'll just keep an eye on them and we'll get home. We'll see it home. Just run with them for about half an hour, but stand back, because we've all done it in races where you overtake a pacer and you think, oh, I'm going great. I've overtaken the 2:15. It's brilliant and all that. And then you're overtaking more and more people in front of you. And then you look behind and then the pacer is just behind you because they're still running at the same pace. You're not making up
that's another
as much as you do.
I'm like Petra. I think I've said it a million times. I love pacers. I think they do an amazing job, but I avoid them like COVID, right? So for me, there's too many people there, right? There's too many Tobys there with COVID. I've got to get away from it, right? But what I have done in the past, again, COVID brain, apologise, is if I will maybe keep a pacer behind me. So they're there to keep me honest. So if I'm ahead of them, right, I know that again, it depends where they start in the pack, but you'll have a rough idea where they are. I will keep them behind me. So, because that fear of that COVID coming over and capturing me and taking me away from everyone just pushes me on. So that's another way. Instead of but Wilco, what you said is a good way, keeping at a certain distance so that you can keep an eye on them visually. But I like the heat behind me, knowing that that's coming through.
And I'll tell you what, it's not good when the pacer catches it. It's like you're being engulfed in some sort of Game of Thrones type battle scene or something. Then like they just all come, all these people, all of a sudden you just hear this hubbub of noise, and then
all the alpha flies coming your way.
I mean, the 4:45 pacer overtook me when I did Yorkshire, my first marathon, about 2 miles to go. And I was struggling a bit, and it just engulfed me. It's just like this huge wave of people, and somebody up front going, "Come on, keep going, everybody! Come on!" Full of the joys of spring, and I'm
all motivated and stuff, and you're sitting there blowing out, feeling sorry for yourself.
But so I think what we're saying is that we, there are ways that you can use. You do not have to sit on the shoulder of the pacer to use the pacer to your advantage when you're doing your run.
Yeah, there's multiple different things you can do to improve your experience in terms of helping you getting around whatever distance it is, we're talking about marathons today, but whatever distance it is, you know, whether it be park run, you've got paces at park run, whatever it is, paces will help you. And especially if you are a newbie and you're thinking, right, I've been doing these long runs and I've been roughly about that pace. That comes in at about 5 hour marathon. You know what? I'm going to start near matey boy over there and I'll see how I get on. That's a great thing to have. Yeah. Find that 5 hour marathon pacer in there. Just be aware it's going to be a bit busy, but ultimately, you know, you've got a guide there which will help you through, you know, potentially your first marathon.
And particularly, I mean, you don't have to use them for the whole thing. You can use them for that key first 3 or 4 miles. Because if you're like the case that you've pointed out here, Chris, you know, if you've got a 5 mile pacer that you think you're saying, that pacer is going to be a very experienced runner and have done a lot of you know, they all run well within their capabilities. You know, that somebody who is doing a 5 hour pacer will be a sub-4 marathon runner. You know, they'll be you know, they'll be well used and they'll have a great deal of experience for like not necessarily, you know, the way of doing it, the etiquette way, you know, of sort of like the best practice, best sort of lines to take and things like that, you know, that will help you settle into it. Yeah, so I think it could be a real benefit in the early stages.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely on the money. They'll know, they know because they've done a few, they would know when those rough patches are coming. They will know when you're going to be getting tired. So, you know, they know what's going on. You say they're experienced runners. They're well within themselves and they're kicking on. But it is a good tip. Whoever mentioned it in the comments, in the questions, it's worth giving them a shout because it you know, if it is your first go and you don't know about running the field and you haven't got a clue about anything, then have a look at your long runs, figure it out. Say, right, I've been running at, you know, 5 hour pace. I'm going to go and find the 5 hour marathon guy or girl to do it. Al, we've had some. Should we get the shoe questions out of the way because we always get those?
Yeah, since I've been on, we've had a change of prime minister. We've got a new king, a new monarch. Interest rates are doubled, but people still want to know about shoes.
Yes.
So some things haven't changed. I'm kind of happy to know that there'll always be a shoe question.
It's the consistent of the world.
Yeah. So, and it's always about Nike. So Andrew Valente wants to know your opinion about the Nike Incredible 2s. Sounds like a remake of
Incredible
Disney film.
Does he mean Invincible? Probably then.
He's asked the Incredible, so perhaps he knows something you don't.
Maybe it's a shoe I'm not aware of. I'll just give you a heads up, listeners or viewers. I've put together 2 videos on Nike shoes. I would just say one of the thumbnails has got a gravestone on it. That's all I'm going to say about that. So if you're listening from Nike and you want to sponsor the pod, what's the email, Wilco?
longrunshow@gmail.com.
Send it in, but you might only want to sponsor us up until about middle of October.
And he has come back just to say, I think it is the Invincible, yes.
Yeah, so the Invincible 2, no, I've not tried them. I said it in a video that there's not a shoe I'm buying because the first pair got me injured and put me out of action. I refused to wear the second pair. Everybody seems to like them. I won't risk it. So, no, I'm not going to try them. I don't. Anybody on here's got? Anyone's got them? Tobe, you've got about 8 pairs you've not even unboxed. Petra, what are you running in at the moment?
I've got the Saucony Pro 2 and Speed 2.
She got talked into admin by those. 100%. She's on com.
You.
Yeah.
Wicked. Right, what was the next one now?
Well, perhaps we can bring Petra in on this one because Martin McGrath is looking at the Speed 2s versus the Speed 3s. He wants to know where the best deals are, but I guess we should tell him whether go 2s or 3s first before he goes hunting out the deals.
I'm still on the 2s. I haven't gone up to the 3s just yet. But I suppose Chris is the best person for that. I think you love the 3s, don't you?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'll give Hayden's not here because he loves them as well. So Hayden's probably a better shout at me. But yeah, I think they've improved it. It's more stable versus the other pair. They're more of a daily shoe than maybe previous versions. Speed 2 for me.
Enjoying the 3s, the Pro 3s. The Pro 3s I'm quite enjoying. I've used them a few times.
Oh, what the Pro? Yeah, the Pro 3s are. Yeah, the Pro Frees. I've been a bit naughty. I've been running them a bit too much because they're quite nice actually. The Pro Frees.
They're a lot different to the two.
Yeah, they're quite a nice shoe actually. But yeah, the Speed 3 is
Are they
more of a
80
daily
quid?
train.
Are they 80 quid better than the twos?
Yeah, I would say so. But to answer the question, go to Start Fitness, get 10% off. You're welcome. And you can grab them there. So see what I did there. But yeah, the Speed 3s I would recommend. They are. I appreciate they're expensive. I'll tell you what we've got coming out on Sunday. We've got the video because I was wearing them. Is the Decathlon 130 quid super shoe thing that they've come out with? I don't know if anyone's seen that 1,000-kilometer claims of, and it's funny enough. It's got the same midsole compound allegedly as the Speed the endorphin
Is that a road shoe?
Yeah, it's a road shoe. It's like Decathlons have come out with this carbon-plated super shoe for the everyday runner, allegedly. All I would say to you is, if you've got fillings, you may need to see the dentist. I'll leave it there. Right? I'm not going to say any more. Video's out Sunday. I'll leave that. I'll leave that up to you. Al, did you say there's another one?
Yeah, we've just had a question come in from Raphael Mazzarella. They've got an issue that they have to wear custom orthotics, so they're looking for the widest carbon-plated trainer. Looks like they've tried the Carbon X2 and Alpha Flies, and they're not really working with their insoles, their inserts.
Try the Adios Pro 3. Try the Adios Pro 3. Is if that don't work, then go for the Saucony Pro 3. But try the Adios Pro 3. It's a cracking shoe. Might even wear that at the dam. But yeah, so there we go. Right, so let's get rid of that.
So we've got.
We've been going 46 minutes.
I know. We ain't said much.
And we haven't really done much either. So what have you done?
I think I've put a lot of value in.
Al, have you noticed Toe's got a moody? Al, have you noticed Toe's got a moody studio now? His blue lighting.
He denied that he's got that. I did notice that while I've been away, everyone's upgraded to sexy studios, and I'm still.
Have you noticed Toe's blue lighting?
I have. It's very nice.
Yeah, he's had someone around there decorating bits and bobs, adding a sort of, let's say, female.
It's definitely had a woman's touch in it. Yeah.
No.
Is that what?
No, not at all.
Don't tell lies. So you can't tell lies.
You're the only one telling lies, really, isn't it?
Right, come on, Wilco. What's next?
So what other? I mean, we've touched upon pacing. Is obviously going to be a very big mental consideration that people are going to be thinking about when they're on the start line and think, what other key things are there to think about, and what stuff is there that's going to be buzzing around your head that you could really do with knocking,
Well, I tell you what, I'll give you one last tip, and then I want to talk to Petra about something. She looks worried now. Is what I say to you. What I'll give you this advice is that's what I've been telling my clients today who are doing London, and that is. Actually, I won't say exactly what I said to them, and those who are listening will know exactly what I'm talking about because it was some naughty words. But what I want you to do basically is by Sunday, this Sunday, if you're doing London Marathon, appreciate it again if you're maybe not doing London, is to have all your plans in place, know exactly what time you're getting there, when you're getting there, when you're getting your number, how that whole Saturday, Sunday week process is, what it looks like, your bag's packed. Watch the video we've done on the channel about what to put in your race bag. Have all that done by Sunday, right? That might seem a long way out. Do it by Sunday because then next week, you just take everything out of your brain other than I'm just going to chill out, I'm going to relax, and I'm not going to worry about a damn thing. Because having all that other stuff in your brain will cause additional anxiety. You'll be burning energy thinking about it. There might even be some negative thoughts coming in, and negative thoughts are never good because they burn more energy. So you've got until Sunday, people, to get your organised and get yourself sorted. And then next week, all you want to do is just chill out. Right, yeah, so there's a train strike. Have your plans in place by Sunday about how you're going to get there. Get all that into place by Sunday. And then from Monday, all you're focused on is looking after yourself, going to bed early, hydrating, eating well, chilling out, doing a little bit of running, but nothing too mental, and just being there on the start line. That's all you want to think about after Sunday. So you've all got a job to do. Get by Sunday. Email in. What's the email, Wilco?
longrunShow@gmail.com.
And let us know. We want to know if you're doing London that you've done, as I've told you, on Sunday. You've done everything I've told you to do. And then you can just basically chill out and think about what you're going to eat after the race. That's all.
And don't be scared of delegating. Don't let people lump problems on you, sort of like, oh, how are we going to get there? How are we going to be able to see you? And all this sort of thing.
Up to them.
They can sort all that out. You've got 26.2 miles to run.
Be selfish.
Concentrate on that.
Be selfish. But seriously, serious point. Get your head straight about what you're going to do, how you're going to get there, train strikes, all that sort of stuff by Sunday. Write it down on a piece of paper, on a pad, put it somewhere, whatever, on your phone, whatever you need to do. Email Toby, tell Toby what you're doing. Whatever works for you, just get it done. So then on Monday, you wake up and that week is just focused on resting, hydrating, eating well. That's it. Okay? Now, moving on, Wilco. We wanted to grill Petra, didn't we, a little bit, because she's stepping up.
Yeah.
Do you want to take over?
What, Petra? Is Petra taking over?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Admin in training.
So, Petra, you've had a little bit of a break from running.
Yes.
So you've been investigating, embarking upon doing a bit of coaching and stuff like that. So I was just wondering what you've been up to and how that all came about, really.
Yeah, so I've been doing my leadership in running course, so the LERF course. So I've done all the kind of online stuff that you do. I've done a Zoom classroom, and then I've been lucky enough to go to Broxbourne a couple of times for the ladies and the Wednesday nights to kind of observe and see what the guys over there do. And then Chris has let me loose a couple of times to kind of do maybe explain what we're doing in the session or the stretching, stuff like that, just to get me kind of.
Is this something that you've always looked to get, since you've been, you've done Petra does a lot. So, not only is she she's a good runner and everything, but she does lots of, she's been a run director at Park Run, pacing. She's running a dog costume around the London landmarks. But your involvement, you've been running for a certain amount of time, but your involvement in actual running and the organisation of it is just sort of like, it's snowballed, isn't it, over the last few years? You've done virtually, a bit of everything. So is this something that you always thought you'd move into, or is it something that's sort of like just naturally evolved?
No, if you'd asked me a year ago, I wouldn't have done half the stuff that I'm doing at the moment, because I didn't have the confidence to do it, and I wasn't confident in myself, and I would have it wouldn't have happened really. And I think over the last year, my confidence has grown, and I think because I'm a more confident runner, it's kind of grown from there really. And and I love running, and if I can help somebody else, if I only help one person get into it and love it like I do, then I think that will be worthwhile.
I'm good. Am I allowed to step in, Wilco? Because I'm going to blow a bit of smoke. I have to say, firstly, she's a natural at it, right? Seeing her, Toby, you'll agree. She is a natural at it, right? She's got a lot of experience, which helps. Park run director, things like that. Done multiple of. She's even run an ultra and then had an ice cream, if I remember rightly. But no, seriously, she's a natural at it, and it is a natural progression. And I think Petra's a great advertisement for it, because don't be put off by giving back because you think, the coaching's, that run leadership thing is going to take a lot of time. I've got to, do tests, this and that. It's all about confidence. It's all about understanding the runners, knowing about the health and safety aspect of it, and being confident and sharing some of that knowledge that you've got and giving back to others. It's not a daunting process. And if you can give back to runners, don't be scared to do it. I would say it's especially within the club environment, club network. We're lucky that FORDY runs the club. The club supports if you want to go and do like LERFing or coaching or whatever you want. The club will support you, and we want LERFs and we want coaches to be able to, just add value to our runners who want it, or if maybe they want to set up a satellite club, and get runners together on a social level, or if they want to, do some coaching or whatever, but they've got, obviously got to get the badges and stuff. But if you can help others, like Petra just said, by doing a course here and there, and you're just giving back. And I think it's so powerful to see what people like Petra are doing and bringing to runners that might, again, we're a little bit different at 40 Runs, the way we do stuff with our coaching. And now, you know, we're a much more inclusive club than many. These traditional clubs where you get told you're too slow and you've got to run with the kids or the B team and all this sort of nonsense. You're one of those really cliquey clubs where it's just, you know, it breaks my heart to see people leaving them. So to be able to have people like Petra coming through and imparting not necessarily also their knowledge, but also the ethos of what we stand for, the everyday runner, and being inclusive. Doesn't matter whether you're going to be running your first London, it's going to take you 8.5 hours on Sunday, or you're going to be smashing out 2 hours, 30 minutes. Everybody's welcome, and all the sessions that we do are inclusive of those. So it's just amazing. And I think Petra is a great advert, along with others in the club who have got their qualifications. Hayden, Al, Toby, you know, Abin, obviously, and everybody else who's done that. You know, it's a good advertisement for what you can do and give back to others, really. I think it's really important.
Petra, if people think they're doing it, how much of a commitment has it been on your part to do this sort of stuff?
Do you know, it wasn't that bad, to be honest. You do a bit of online stuff so that you might, I think there's 4 modules, which might take you about 4 hours. And then my Zoom classroom was an hour and a half, and they were really, you could do that at the weekend, or I think they do a couple in the day. So it wasn't, you know, it wasn't bad. And once you've signed up, you kind of do it in your own time. So you can fit it in the
so
evening.
It's a pretty flexible thing then.
Yeah. And then you just need to do your practical, which is literally 10 minutes essentially, because you've just got to show that you can do a warm up and a session. So you just do 5 minutes of each. So yeah, it's not actually that time consuming all in all, but so it is, you know, you can fit it in.
And then soon you'll be qualified to stand on Hartham Common on a Tuesday night in a dry road.
With a whistle.
I think it surprises people as well. I think when you go to do it, you realise how much you actually know. It's not stuff that you don't know, and I think that helps instill a lot of confidence as well. Going, I actually know this, but now I can pass it on. Which I think really it can seem a bit daunting at the beginning. I think going, am I going to go there, follow a load of people that are much better than me? I can run faster and do this, but it's nothing to do that at all. It's about the knowledge you picked up in the back of your mind, and then you can just help, you know, other runners who, you know, are in the position you were 2-3 years ago.
Yeah, it's a great thing. It's an awesome thing. And yeah, as you say, just helping others, just being as simple as going to a social run, organising a social run, but you're insured for those people who are going out because of the England Athletics framework in which we operate. You know, if you've got a leader who's registered with us, then when you go out as a group, you've got insurance there. It sounds funny, but you know, that sort of stuff, you know, and they've done the health and safety. They know what to be looking for, what's, you know, you shouldn't be, you know, looking for to keep everybody safe, especially, you know, with the way the world is, but also now it's getting darker and things like that. It's something to think about. So I think it's awesome. So I tell you what, if you're interested in becoming a run leader, and you should join the 40 Runs Running Club. We're in an England Athletics affiliated club. I appreciate if you're living in Mongolia or Peru or Hungary, where we're massive, this won't necessarily, but you can still be a member. You can be a free member. Because listen to this, I had one of the listeners, he lives in Australia, and he emailed in because he wanted to become a club member. And he was like, but I don't live in England. How can I want to be a club? I want to be part of the team, which was amazing, right? So he's got himself his shirt, and I told him to set up a satellite group, crack on.
How cool would that be?
My point is, if you are in the UK and you want to be part of the club, we don't charge anything. The money that we charge goes straight to England Athletics for them to do absolutely nothing with, because they don't invest in anything, you know, other than what they want to invest in. Bit of a dig there, Tobe. But the point is you can do it. So get involved, email in, right? So this is the club, and this is the only email address I know, and there is a reason for this. It's 40runs@hotmail.com. The reason I know that email address is because when people email me and ask me about stuff, I just say, no, email this. It's the only one I know, because basically I haven't got a clue about what they're asking. But if you're interested in becoming a run leader, or maybe you've done a run leader and you're sitting there and you've not done anything with it and you want to go to the next level coaching, you know, we can help support you through that process. So get in touch with us at the club, and we'd love to just get more runners involved, you know, in running, you know, and that's the key for us at 40 Runs, is to get everybody together, more runners together, but of all abilities, having fun. That's our ethos. We're not here taking ourselves, as you know by now, very seriously. Yeah. So that's it. That's probably a good way to end the show. I'm done. I'm exhausted, by the way.
We've done an hour.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm spent.
Right then. Okay, well, I'll wind things up then. Thank you
Please.
very much, Petra. Al's been back. Thanks ever so much for coming, mate. It's lovely.
Yeah,
to
good
see
to have
you.
you back.
If you've missed us on YouTube or Facebook, don't worry. You can catch up with us on your podcaster provider of choice. It should be up soon on either Amazon, Apple, Spotify, all the big boys. We're all on there. Thank you very much for joining us again. We are back next week and back every week at 7 o'clock on Facebook and YouTube. Please join us again. And we shall see you next week. So, titles.